Hey everybody, welcome back in to the Horseshoe Lounge. We are at Roosters, and it is time for a fun, casual conversation about the Buckeyes. And for the offseason, there's sure a lot going on. We apologize for missing last week. The three of us, Justin Zwick, Bobby Carpenter, myself, Jeremy Birmingham, were out in Los Angeles, leaving Nicole behind. Did you just come in without us? Is that?
I didn't, guys.
Okay.
I didn't.
No?
I thought about you guys out there.
Okay, well, thanks
and
for...
how much fun you
No, it was
how much rain we were
the
getting.
weather. Today in Ohio would have been great out there. It rained a lot. It was not warm. It rains 36 days a year in Los Angeles, and somehow we were there for 1%, about 5 days.
Yeah,
and yet we got about 10% of the rain because it rained about 3 of them.
Bobby had to
That's
get.
insane.
Bobby had to get a
48
hoodie
hours.
and a blanket at the
It
stadium.
was cold.
People were going down like they were getting sniped walking through the concourse out there. It wasn't a good setup. You didn't miss anything.
No,
They don't.
well,
like,
we missed the we maybe missed
Ohio
the national
State-
championship,
Ohio State missed
but other
the
than
game.
that, yes, Ohio State missed the game.
And there wasn't much of a game.
No.
That was probably
game
the
was
painful
terrible.
part, is that Ohio State would have done
Yes, the same,
the exact same thing to TCU. Anyway, that's not the great way to start the show.
Sorry.
Off-season moves today, as we get into it in the Horseshoe Lounge, is the NFL draft deadline. Boy.
It's today, I've heard.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's a
Has
big one
anything
out there.
come in recently?
Yes, CJ
Oh, yeah.
Stroud.
Just made
Major shocker.
Oh, he's not coming back.
I don't know.
Ah.
I'm sorry for getting everybody's hopes up.
I can't. I thought he
I
was.
saw
By
on
reporting
social
the-
media.
I saw something that made it seem like
big news. Let's start with this. Shout out to all of you who tried to troll Ohio State fans for engagement or pretended like you had big news coming.
big news.
I mean, come on. It's not fair to CJ Stroud, and it's not fair for all the
No.
people that felt duped by it. I mean, Bob, we can say that Ohio State put a competitive package on the table, the best that they could do. There were businesses that wanted to be involved in letting CJ know what he could have in endorsement money if he came back. It was great. It was something more to think about than any player has probably ever had before in his position.
Yep.
But it also wasn't $30 million.
Yep.
That's all true, right?
There you
No,
go.
it is. I will say this though, because people are like, "Well, what's the number?" I'm like, I don't know. I mean, he's going to be a top 5, top 3. I don't know. I feel like that last game solidified him as probably being the first quarterback off the board. Especially when people talk about Bryce Young is not a big guy. by any
Bryce Young's
stretch.
gonna get folded up in the
He is a small dude. He's a great human being. Awesome dude. Like, you talked to him and you were very impressed. But CJ checks a lot of the boxes. And any questions you did have, I felt like he answered those on the biggest stage. He put his team in position to win a game by being a great leader. And not just a great passer or a great quarterback, but a great football player and winner. And even though they didn't win, he did everything he could to put them in that position. And so I felt like he answered all that, so he'll be, one of the top guys off the board. However, when you do come back, like if he chose to come back, obviously there'd be a package. What that number, that dollar figure is, I mean, we could all speculate what it would take.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's like, well, I would do it. Well, yeah, you would do
It's
it.
easy to
because
say when
you don't have the option of the other thing.
Exactly.
And it's all speculative dollars in your mind. These are real, tangible dollars. But if he came back, he would be the front runner for the Heisman, which over probably the course of your life, I would say is probably
back,
worth
yeah.
It's worth something.
I would probably say is worth $20 million over the course of your life. When you start factoring in everything that goes into it over the course of the years and all the signings and appearances and everything else that goes into it. But with all
Heisman House commercials, SAG cards,
with all-
back end points.
But with all that being said, like it's really hard when you put yourself in a position to do this and you're right there and you have no idea what could happen next year.
That's the
And so you're the great unknown. And so everybody was, and believe me, it's like there's no way he's coming back. Well, maybe. You start looking at it. Maybe they put something out there that was really, really enticing. Taking all the way to the deadline, but it would have been. I had a bunch of people today texting me.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, listen, I mean, we're talking Douglas Tyson. I'm not saying it can't happen.
Yeah, but
and I know that's a nice Columbus reference. I'm like, but the odds are long. Okay,
Yeah.
very, very long odds.
Longer than Douglas Tyson, I think.
I would say probably.
Jay-Z, did you
yeah,
have
it's
your hopes
tough.
up?
No, I didn't. But just to Bob's point, like, what is the number that would get you? Like, would $10 million plus a big insurance policy worded the right way in case you fell out of a certain spot? Would that be enough to get you to come back? I mean, it's a crazy thing to think of, being a top 5 pick in the draft, even thinking, there's a chance he might come back to play in college again. I mean, it's nuts, but that's just how things have changed with these guys being able to make money and get these deals and whatnot. So, I mean, there was a part of me like, well, maybe. I think if 3 of his offensive linemen don't leave, And you might sit there and be like, man, we're going to run this back with, the guys who I know in front of me that kept me up all year long. Mm-hmm. I'm going to make a bunch of money. It's going to be an awesome year, maybe. But with losing those guys, and it's just, man, I saw something that was like $31 to $34 million maybe is going to be, 31 to 40 maybe it was, all in with marketing and everything else that you can do as a top 5 pick. I mean, that's really, really, really hard. Even if you're getting $10 million plus an insurance policy, you're still not probably getting to that number. So
no,
I mean, it's life-changing. I mean, it all is life-changing money, but, once you sign on that dotted line, you're coming in with a big chunk. So,
Nicole, I wonder, from your perspective, you've been talking about the standard being the standard and that CJ had to be his own person, that it wasn't fair previously. And there were so many people critical of CJ after the loss to Michigan, both of them not winning the Big Ten. And then over the last week, and certainly after the Peach Bowl, there was this
everybody wants him back.
Oh, please, we must have CJ back.
I feel like that's a pattern that always happens, unfortunately, and it just is what it is. I'll never forget when Justin Fields left and he came on, the amount of criticism he received, and now look at him. Which I feel you just have to give everyone a chance. I do feel too he's an athlete though, and did not like going out on a loss.
Right.
So I don't know if that's worth $20 million
or more.
Or yeah. I mean, I don't know. I've been thinking about it, and you're right. This NIL has just made everything so much different, and now they can come back. But I mean, they'd be unstoppable if he came back, and maybe that's what he wants, to make him stronger, and just to know he went out on a win. I don't know. And also, too, like you and Berm were talking about with Justin Fields, I mean, it's like moving schools. You know what I mean? You're the top dog, and now you're going to go into you're going to go to a team that's probably not the best, and having to go through all of that.
Not going to be fun.
Yeah.
Especially if you have to play right away. I think there are a lot of things that he had to consider in that. That would be one of them.
Yeah, I think his team definitely had to say, all right, who's up front in the draft? Who's going to be wanting to move up? Do you want to go? I mean, say the Texans, I think, are 2, right?
Hey,
they don't have a
going there.
Yeah,
they don't have a great history of quarterbacks. I know she'd be very happy.
But he definitely.
But it's not a great history of them doing good things with quarterbacks. But still,
they did get it right for a while until they couldn't keep their quarterback out of.
That's a whole different ballgame.
Out of the massage room, but that's the
got
Browns
tight muscles.
Well, yeah, that's part of it.
Guys, what if he went to the Texans? I mean, now I'm kind of pushing for him to go to the draft.
Well, I mean, there's a very, very good possibility.
Somebody's going to have to trade up to number 1 if they want.
Yeah, if they
CJ,
want to take it.
The Bears are already set there with Justin Fields, so Houston's right there at number 2, and I think that's the other amusing part. The Houston Chronicle was there, doing a big story on CJ before the Peach Bowl and writing about how. He couldn't improvise and he couldn't do things with his legs. So clearly that's coming from inside that organization to write about that and go attack that. That's how that stuff works. That's how the sausage is made. And then he went out there and put on like one of the most impressive quarterbacking performances that you're ever going to see, certainly in a losing effort. He checked all those boxes. There's really nothing else for him to prove, Bob.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I was referencing, they didn't win the game, but he did everything he could. Yeah. And he put his team in position to win the game. Like, you have a 50-yard field goal to win it. And that's based upon everything that happened, loss of receivers, all that stuff. So, he's done everything as far as developmentally in college. I don't know how much more he could actually develop. Maybe you get a little sharper, you get a little crisper.
And the Heisman.
But you
come back and you put a couple of those, games on film instead of just the one. But I mean, it was a huge one. Yeah. I mean, against the Georgia, in the playoffs, so it's a big one. But
I was talking about more, Nicole, like like your development as a person, the accolades and the opportunities to win awards. Yeah, that's all out in front of him. Beat Michigan, win a Big Ten, win a national championship, all those things that are out there. All-American, Heisman, and everything. But as far as his development, yeah, he could just, like you said, show the level of consistency. And I think there may have been some injuries and stuff that we weren't necessarily privy to during the year, which hampered his ability to move and run a little bit. But
there may have been conversations with coaches saying, hey, we don't want you doing all this. We want you to sit back there. You take a sack, you take a sack. There's stuff we may not know, but it looked like a different quarterback in that playoff
Absolutely,
game.
Because that's for everything right there. So you're going to see whatever the best or worst of a person is
100%.
at that point in time. They're going to really throw it out. So you saw all that from him. with that being said, like I wish him the best. Like I'm excited for him to see him at the next level. I think he'll end up having a good career. I think you saw a level of maturity maybe at the end of the season that maybe wasn't there when he first took over, and you expect that. I think that's probably the one area of him coming back. And not that that's a negative thing, but just learning to lead. And, his first year, he hadn't thrown a pass before he came in, last season. And then this year, there was a lot of expectations. There was a lot of pressure. And then maybe going through that for the second time around where you're expected to be the guy, you're leading it. And, last year you had the older receivers. This year you had younger ones. Maybe you grow with them for another year. And, you have a young offensive line, helping mentor those guys and different things. That might be the only area that I think you could see maybe the growth in that leadership. But you're picking nits at that point, trying to figure out exactly what he could do. I wish him the best. I think he'll be good. I hope he doesn't go to a situation where he has a bad offensive line, limited like Justin. Basically, Justin went into where he's asked to do a lot with very little. And Justin's an elite athlete, so it gives him the ability to move around and do some things. And obviously, rushing, he could have set the single-season rushing record for quarterbacks if he would have played his last game potentially. But because CJ doesn't have that. He's a good athlete, but he's not Justin when it comes to being able to run. And you don't really want your quarterback to have to do that, but that was strictly out of necessity. So hopefully, wherever he goes, they will have a comprehensive plan with a coach they don't plan on firing in a year or two. Only have him
in the NFL, no way.
Exactly.
Those guys give out extensions and fire people the next year like it's going out of style.
Maybe he's not ready to go into that, just selfishly.
No one's really ready for that, Nicole. I'm going to tell you that.
No. But when they're signing those checks, they're going to tell you to get out there and do your thing, and that's your job now. So
go figure it out.
Yes,
build the airplane while you're in the air.
And
unfortunately,
and here's the good news. You watch a little NFL, and you saw Daniel Jones, who was the same draft class as Dwayne, and
Mr. Dimes.
He meandered around. I mean, he showed some flashes. He showed some really bad. Was highly inconsistent at best. And all of a sudden, you get a competent head coach, and they're able to put some receivers around you and a plan. And now you look like a pretty darn good football player.
In a healthy Saquon.
Yes, and a healthy running game and a lot of stuff around you.
Yeah, that does help. Okay, so CJ was not the only NFL draft decision last week. So let's turn it into some Roosters Buckeye leaves. The most impactful NFL draft decision. Nicole's got a full notebook over here. I didn't tell her.
I'm getting ready to take notes though on who. I want to make sure my roster.
I didn't tell her beforehand because again, we don't ever script the fun casual conversation. So I sprung this question on her. Maybe do you want to think about it? Do you want Jay-Z to go first, or do you want to take the most impactful NFL decision, staying or going?
Does it have to be from last week?
No,
it doesn't.
No. Well, it has to be from this year.
Obviously, yeah.
I don't know. I mean, you could have picked
Justin Fields doesn't count.
No. You guys go first, just so I know what you mean by impactful. Jay-Z. Like exactly where you're going with that for the team now, or
moving forward.
I don't know if it was the most surprising to me was Whippler leaving it right there in the middle of the offensive line, and I think it was surprising, and I would have to look at who's going to the draft center wise to see if it makes sense, which I think it probably does just from talking to some people beforehand. But I think it has more, just we've already lost our two big ones, and then it's just like that centerpiece, which I thought we had some good stuff happening there, and we were already going to have to replace, some other guys. So it just makes it that much more of a, going into the season, we thought the offensive line was going to be the issue. If we get injuries up there, we don't really have that depth there like we do in other positions. So we're going to have to see, 3 or 4 or 5 guys really grow up here this spring going into the summer, and, just that impact with a new quarterback being back there. Now, I know you got all the receivers, you got your running backs, but I can tell you from experience, if it's 3rd and long every freaking time you're out there on the field, it's going to not be fun for you as a quarterback, as a new quarterback. If that offensive line is getting beat up on a little bit, and not that I'm saying they're going to, but with new people, you just don't like to see that with a new quarterback. You'd rather have a little continuity up there, some guys who have, feel pretty strong about their season, and then you put a new quarterback behind them. But I think that's a big one.
Okay, I would have lost the bet because I thought Jay-Z was going to say Mayan Williams.
Really?
Well, we have so many. Listen, I'm happy my guy's coming back.
Yeah.
But there's so many running backs there that we can go to.
So I lost that bet, but I'm going to double down, and I'm going to predict that Bobby says a linebacker.
Yes.
That's my.
I thought about going linebacker.
That's my guess.
So that's why I was going to go with Whippler because I think it was just the one that was the most shocking when you're breaking in a quarterback to then be breaking in a center while you're replacing.
Well, and you're
Paris,
having to,
Paris
rotate
Johnson,
guys in there. Like, you don't know who those three guys in the middle are going to be now.
Paris Johnson and then ultimately Dwan Jones, which you knew he was going to leave, and you knew Paris was going to leave. Whippler was a surprising one. I will probably say Tommy. I didn't necessarily think that Tommy, mid-season was going to go, and then all of a sudden he played really well. You're like, okay, he's checking a lot of boxes for what he could
having
be able to do.
Year,
having a great year. And I guess I look at this where, you lost Zach Harrison. Guys who were out of eligibility up front left, but you have a lot of the defensive line left. You have Steel Chambers now coming back. You lost Tanner McAllister. You lost Ronnie Hickman. And you lost Cam Brown, and then J.K. Johnson got in the portal. But a lot of your defense is going to be back. And the fact that you have the guy in the middle who played really well this year, who played through 2 broken wrists and hands or whatever the heck it was, and he's the leader of that defense. You'd always say like the vocal leader, but he's not really
He's
vocal.
definitely not that.
He's not vocal, but he is the guy
His
that
play
kind of,
speaks for him, right?
when he gets everything set up, having your middle linebacker and both your backers back is big. You've got some good young safeties you feel like you can throw in there. With Cam Martinez, Lathan Ransom continue to grow it. There's a number of guys that are
Got a veteran out of the portal, Jahad.
Absolutely. So you got Curry coming in from Syracuse. Got some decent good young corners, and you feel like that this defense.
You have a nice nucleus of guys.
It does.
Right? Yeah.
And so him being back and being able to be like the straw that's stirring the proverbial drink, I think that's huge because I was kind of worried. I'm going to be honest with him leaving. I think he could go to the NFL and be fine, but I do believe that there's some things left here that he could still achieve, and I think there's probably a little bit of growth. And you know what? You balance all that out, you have no idea. You come back
and impactful wise, you don't. You got young guys who are good 4 or 5 star guys coming up behind, but we don't really know because they didn't get a lot of playing time this year.
That'll
So
be
that's another
interesting
thing
to see how they juggle that because there are some guys that need to get on the field, and so whether it's with packages or trying to rotate some guys a little more while still making sure that your veterans are getting enough playing time and that they're good. That'll be the interesting piece for Jim Knowles to try to figure out.
Okay. Nicole, you got one?
So I do.
Okay.
So again, reminding everyone, I'm bringing this point just because I look at their personalities. And so Luke Whippler and Paris Johnson leaving, I feel like both of those guys, I've gotten to know them over the years, and they're just such great leaders. And I just feel their personalities and kindness and what they do in the community. Paris Johnson has his own foundation and has just been a real person to kind of look up to here, I think, for the team. And
it's really tall.
Yeah, he's huge. But I just think losing those pieces of guys that always maybe just, were there for you in maybe a down moment, or I think that's hard. It's like losing a sibling almost. So I think that's going to have an impact. And like you guys were saying, I was shocked about Whippler that he was leaving. Paris Johnson, obviously, I think we all knew he was leaving. Did he have years left?
He had 1 year left.
He had 1 year. I don't know. You just hate. I mean, you're excited for guys like that to go and grow because it's exciting to see the great things that lie ahead for them.
Yeah. I was also surprised that Marvin Harrison Jr. returned. Yeah. Didn't transfer to USC.
It's going to have a huge impact.
Well, I mean, based upon what I saw on Twitter and social media a couple weeks ago, that he was transferring to USC.
Twitter rumors are really having a moment right now.
People were like certain. If I had to answer another question about that, I was going to punch someone in the neck.
Great work, Dan Patrick and Andy Staples, taking that out to the people and giving it a much.
I want to know where. I want to know who insinuated
all the real
that.
MVPs out there.
like they're like he's going to leave. Like they're going to pay him. Like he doesn't even take any
he doesn't
money now.
care about money.
I'm like his dad told him, "You worry about football. We'll worry about the rest." Yeah. I'm like, based upon that comment that he literally told me direct from his lips to my ears, staring at him as he signed a hat for my son for Christmas. I'm like, he's not a dude. While he caught 400 balls that day, I'm like, this isn't a guy who's going to lie about it. And was back in the Woody like the next week after the game.
Berm and I had never actually heard Marv use profanity until Berm walked
Big
up
Marv
to
or
him.
Little Marv?
Little Marv.
Tall Marv.
Yeah.
Taller Marv.
Taller, younger Marv. Yeah, and he's like, where the F do they come up with this stuff? Like, it's absolutely crazy. But I will throw out one more, since we're talking about Luke Whippler, sort of flipped places with Matthew Jones, who I did not expect to come back. That is a a major deal for Ohio State.
Big.
It kind of slips through the cracks when you're talking about everything else. But Jay-Z, when you're talking about shuffling going on and breaking in a new center and quarterback,
Maybe he's the center.
He could be the center. He feels he could potentially address two different.
He's going to have to fill one of those voids
one
in the
of
middle,
those
right?
spots,
One of those spots. And it's good to have somebody that can rotate and do different things.
It gives Justin Fry some positional versatility and flexibility. If Jacob James proves that he's ready in March and April to be the starting center, great. Yep. Matthew Jones can stay at guard. If not, then you can move Matthew Jones down there. He can show. A long time ago, before Luke Whippler, before Harry Miller, Matthew Jones was the 4 or 5 star recruit, projected to be the best center in the country. That's never happened for him here, even while he became a guard. Yes, he has that opportunity potentially now. If he doesn't have to go there, or if he does move to center, then you can have Enoch Vimahi or something like that coming along. So it's very helpful that Ohio State could still wind up there with 3 experienced players on the interior for what they've got coming back. We'll see exactly how that transpires, but I give him credit for that. Doesn't feel like he's ready, has a chance to boost his stock, helps Ohio State next year. If they had to replace 4 out of 5, that's a bad deal. In terms of impact, I think Matthew Jones flipping that around
that's a good one.
Stands out for me. He gets my Roosters Buckeye leaf for that, and I think there's an appetizer special.
I saw these floating around here.
Right here.
Appetizer Tuesday, literally flying.
Nelly said something about this one time.
Yeah, flying
shake
around.
that.
They were. These are kind of new. They were here for a while. I feel like they were gone, and then they came back.
They weren't a staple of Appetizer
They weren't a
Tuesday.
staple, though. They weren't on the Appetizer Tuesday rotation.
They have been.
Nicole, not as consistently as you would lead us to believe.
I don't think
consistency-wise, you're right.
Consistency.
Yeah.
I don't think we'd ever tried it until like October.
I agree with that because we were like, this what's this sauce called? Tail feather?
Plucking
sauce.
Pluck you sauce. It's the best. It is the best
delicious.
sauce.
I remember talking about it this past football season.
Look at this. Delicious. The Roosters.
$3 on
feathers.
Tuesdays.
$3 on Tuesdays. Come get some.
They're delicious, and they're back in the rotation.
Onions.
They've got. They had to have some load management. Like LeBron, he couldn't just.
You want to have them ready.
Can't
for
be out there every
2023.
week.
Yeah.
You
want to get
rest
them
them. You got to rest them up.
Light and fluffy and delicious.
Nicole, what else is going on at Roosters right now?
Right now we're doing the Super Bowl early bird special, so you get a discount on your wings if you pick up your order within a certain time slot during the day. It just helps.
What
the
would
kitchens.
that time slot be? Nicole?
Oh, thank you, Bobby.
When is the Super Bowl?
They're still
I
working
guess
out
before 5 o'clock.
Okay, perfect.
And yes, that is true. We have not announced the exact hours yet, but we
Earlier
did
in the
decide
day.
to do it.
Yes.
So just not during game time, basically.
Plan it out early.
Just because,
Get ready for your party.
It's just too hard on the kitchen. We can't keep up. We have
Listen,
our food
you
truck.
get them at the house. You throw them in the oven, warm them,
Yes.
keep them warm a little bit. They're moist and delicious.
Exactly.
They'll still be good.
So good.
If you go through catering, you could potentially get chips.
That is a possibility.
Which I think
That's the real winner.
Very
That
much
is the
can
real
happen.
winner. That's really
important.
Can you do catering and just get chips?
Yeah.
I don't want any chicken. Just give me all the
You might
chips.
pay a little bit
Yeah,
for
I
them,
need 4
but-
tins of chips
Just pile up
and
all
2
the
tins of ranch because I love to dip them.
I don't think
I
you
do
understand
too.
me. I said I want all the chips you have. All right. Anything else, Nicole?
That would be it for now.
We're going to let her go. There were also some changes on the Ohio State coaching staff in terms of alignment. We're going to get into those when we come back right here into Roosters in the Horseshoe Lounge. It's a fun, casual joint.
Roosters has been so fortunate. We just want to be able to give some of that back to the community.
They donate to organizations that are near and dear to their heart, and we're so fortunate to have been with Roosters now for a long time.
They always go above and beyond to help support our foundation to further help veterans.
It's just a wonderful feeling to know that Roosters supports the Buckeye Cruise for Cancer.
All the folks at Roosters are just genuinely kind folks, and they want to make a difference.
Thank you, Roosters Foundation.
Thank you, Roosters.
Thank you, Roosters.
Thank you, Roosters Foundation.
Hey everybody, welcome back into the Horseshoe Lounge. We are at Roosters. It's a fun, casual conversation and a fun, casual joint. And we're talking about the Buckeyes. Berm, did you have an impactful Buckeye leaf that you wanted to give out for an NFL draft decision, or should we just get straight into the coaching staff?
Everyone's impactful in their own way, right? Everything.
Nice.
Everything.
We're all God's children.
Everything changes.
Let's go down.
I didn't know we invited Jim Tressel in here today.
Everything changes the direction of the program in its own little way. It's like a timeline. Every little branch
Butterfly
changes
effect.
everything.
Yeah.
I think the biggest
It's a great
one, obviously,
movie.
for who's returning, of course, is Tommy Eichenberg. That's a no-brainer. And I think the biggest one that's another one that hasn't really been talked about much is Matthew Jones staying.
Yeah.
Changes a lot of things for Ohio State, even with the departure of Luke Whippler.
I think that's more important than ever.
Well, Matthew Jones'
those
flexibility.
couple those together.
Matthew Jones' flexibility and the ability to move inside and play center opens up an opportunity for Enoch Vamahi. It opens up an opportunity to keep Donovan Jackson at guard. You've got Vamahi in there. It changes things a lot, and I think those are the two that are. If you're projecting out,
Do you know his brother? I believe plays at Utah.
Yes,
I didn't know that. I was happy. I told him thank you for the win.
I'm sure he was
Lannisters send their regards.
Lannisters send their regards.
Those two, if you're looking at like the spring and how it impacts what Ohio State has to accomplish in the spring, I think those are the two biggest pieces to just have back because it settles some very important things, and the game is won up the middle.
Ooh, okay.
How about Coach Ryan Day? I mean, give him a Buckeye leaf on the return.
Coming back?
Was he not supposed to?
No, I
mean, you never know.
I don't know. There's a lot of slander and hatred that's thrown around a lot of times. So
There sure is. He did make a move, though, Bob. Keenan Bailey, as we've been saying for 6 weeks, is sliding into that full-time spot. He's coaching the tight ends. That's not the headliner, and we've also known that was going to happen for a while. Brian Hartline is now officially the offensive coordinator. Now, all Ryan Day did was put out a statement on Friday, so he didn't detail whether he's stepping down as the play caller.
he's alluded to that, though.
He has mentioned it to several people, you and I both among them.
And Herb Street.
Probably, least importantly, was telling it to, if you wanted to keep it a secret, probably don't tell ESPN in a production meeting that's what you're thinking before the Peach Bowl. But I digress. That's not important. So we think that that's probably what's going to happen, is that Brian Hartline will go upstairs and call plays. We don't know that for 100% certainty, but that's a pretty big move.
The move of making him OC, because you have Justin Fry there too, and I think that they'll probably tag team that deal a little bit, run pass game, and figure it out. But what's interesting to me will be, the operation of all and how that all works, and the cohesion that they have together, and trying to put that thing and just making sure that it's a smooth game day process. The fact that we're here together for a year before that ultimately transpired, I think is big. I think Ryan Day's going to have a hand in it still as well. But also the one thing that nobody really talks about is you talk about Brian going upstairs. Like Kevin Wilson was upstairs. He's an experienced coach. He's always been a box guy. He sees things really well. And not that Hartline doesn't, but when you move guys,
first time for him though.
Yeah, but when you move guys down, like their relationship with their players, them being able to coach them on the field versus trying to coach them through the headset, there is some difference, and you've got to make sure. So you would think that like Keenan Bailey might be down there then echoing some of his beliefs, and you just have to understand that the operations are going to be different of who's up top, and you have a little bit of a personality on the sideline with different coaches provide different things. Yep. And then you have your guys in the box that different guys provide different things. And like working through that now, this is the first time where there's really been some substantive change with that under Ryan Day on the offensive side of the ball. And so that's the one thing that I'm curious to kind of see, how it operates. And not that it's going to go poorly by any stretch, just different guys. Like Brian's a former player. Most former players like to be on the field. Now he sees things really well and his ability to communicate, but do you lose anything with his on-field presence by him going upstairs?
I mean, it's an extremely risky move for Ryan Day to hire a first-time coordinator or to promote a first-time coordinator in this. Have you ever?
If he's going to be calling plays,
right? Either way, I mean, it's you're giving away a lot of control or potentially control to a guy that hasn't had it in a year that is going to be very pivotal for Ryan Day's legacy at Ohio State. So it's a sign of how much he trusts Brian Hartline, I think, but it's also an understanding of how. You had to do this essentially to make sure that you don't lose a guy like Hartline over the next couple of years. I think that there's discussion like Justin Fry's future probably isn't much longer than another year or two at the most at Ohio State anyway. So
maybe you think he's gonna get the Indiana job?
I mean, eventually,
He'll be a candidate. Hard to predict if Indiana will actually give it to him or not, but I don't think that'll be the only place that.
You think they bring back Kevin Wilson after 2 successful seasons at Tulsa?
It's always possible. But I mean, did you ever?
Think they ever should have let him go in the first?
Did you ever play under a first-year coordinator?
Mark D'Antonio. I guess it was his. Maybe he was a coordinator at Youngstown State.
Snides
that was
OC or
him and Mel Tucker were coordinator, co-coordinator. That was less than smooth the first year, but we did have a very young team, young on defense. We had like a handful of guys that had started the year before on defense. A lot of really talented guys, and then offensively we were very young. Had a rough offensive line. Like we struggled to move the ball consistently due to the inability to block guys up front, and so like that puts in inordinate amount of pressure on your defense. It was just
it was a bad start.
There was a lot of things that went wrong early on, and so I don't
figure it out though by the Alamo Bowl, baby.
Yeah, so as you slowly
you want to be peaking.
Yes, we were peaking for the Alamo Bowl.
Like just guys who had never played before. I mean,
we had a defensive end playing right tackle.
Yeah,
who went to camp as a defensive end that year.
Not well, by the way.
Well, that's a whole different ball.
But then it was just you find guys in there, young guys, like, all right, well, who can play and who can't? Sometimes it takes a couple of games to really figure that out. So as you do, it's good. Now, they'll have some time because they don't play Notre Dame till week 3 this year. So you've got a little bit of time to kind of work through that process. It will be up there.
So that's not a ton of time.
No, but it's not.
Especially when you're talking about replacing offensive linemen and getting everybody in the right spots there.
That'll be the biggest task.
I mean, you talk about this guy leaving maybe in a couple of years. Shoot, if he comes out, we have 17 guys. I think I read offensive line scholarship guys. We don't have guys who are like, oh, we know this is going to be our guy. We know this is going to be our guy. These next couple of years for him, as far as an offensive line coach / run game coordinator goes, could be huge for him.
I think this year, he had a really good offensive line last year. Yeah. Now turning that thing over and having it be good again with a lot of young and inexperienced guys, that'll be a challenge. That's why I'm almost glad, not that Justin wasn't qualified for it. I think him and Brian both would do a fine job, but he's going to have his hands full with developing. He has the largest position group. The offensive line coach has the largest position group of any coach, and he has the most inexperienced guys that are pivotal to the success. No team is good without a good offensive line. You go watch the Cincinnati Bengals play last night. They had to nurse that thing to a victory at the end and needed a 96-yard touchdown.
from 88, whatever. The longest in the history of the playoffs, right?
How about Sam Hubbard, by the way?
Hey, good for him.
But isn't there the same argument that can be made about Brent Hartline? You have
because I could coach Marvin.
You got 4 veterans. You got a couple veterans.
We go coach that receiver room.
You got a couple veterans with Emeka and Julian and Marv and Xavier Johnson. But under that, nobody's played. All those guys are gone after next year, right? So that you have 9 other players that haven't played at all, including it's going to end up essentially being 8 redshirt freshmen and/or true freshmen. And he's not going to be as involved in their development as he otherwise has been. You don't imagine, right? He's still going to coach receivers. He's still going to coach receivers, obviously. Yes. But you do wonder if there's a risk there to what he's
spreading him too thin where he can't do what he is used to doing.
Right. Is he going to be able to do that at the same high level? Has he been able to get Devin Jordan on board with his style of coaching?
Him and Devin, they played together.
And
then you also have Keenan, who's involved, who has a more on-field role now that will be able to assist and work through that, who helped Brian for a long time. So I think that, and those guys, here's the thing, you have your established dudes ready to go right now.
To bring Brian Robisky back.
Robisk?
Where's he at right now? Is he coaching?
Probably his dad was. I'm sure he's thinking about it.
We got to think Brian and Devin both came from Darrell Hazel, right?
Yeah.
That was their receiver coach.
Maybe you bring in Darrell Hazel. He's just hanging out.
He's probably in the league somewhere, isn't he?
No, he lives in Dayton.
Is he just?
Oh, yeah.
You need
I met with Darrell last
month.
Oh, yeah,
I loved him.
It was awesome. He didn't know I was
people.
He didn't know I was going to be at this meeting either.
Oh, gosh. If he'd have known.
Started talking. Oh, he loved it. I love talking.
He was good people. But awesome. They both grew up under him, They were both in college when he was there.
Cinnamon High.
So now we're diving into who Ohio State should hire as analyst. Darrell Hazel's on the top of the list.
Well,
let's get him going.
Great.
Darrell, find him.
Yeah,
he's
in Dayton.
Letting the NCAA turn those analysts loose to actually coach Monday through Saturday, that would be helpful. But they, for whatever reason, they still seem resistant to approving that. Don't know why.
Who's enforcing that, by the way?
Well, nobody. It's
Ohio State's compliance office.
The
people of Ohio State.
They're actually
employees
not following the rules. The only thing you can get in trouble for about having those analysts coach is lying about them doing it. So just ask Jim Harbaugh about how that works out. That's the only way you can get in trouble. If Jim Harbaugh had just said, yes, our analysts are coaching, obviously, everyone's are, then he would have been just fine. Instead,
Isn't that amazing?
Level 1 charge.
Failure
to comply.
I can't believe they're even handing that stuff out anymore.
We're looking ahead, right? It's time to talk about spring football.
Okay.
Almost, right?
Is it?
Let's talk about winter conditioning.
We got 6 a.m.
Let's
the
talk
chase.
about
The chase.
What was the
edge?
There's 11 new 12, 13 new players in the program as of last week. 11 early enrolled freshmen, a transfer, and then 1 walk-on early enrolled freshman from Massillon Washington High School. Will Hartson.
Really good player, by the way. He's a good little player.
Whatever. what's the biggest adjustment for these kids when they get into the program that first week?
First of all, your parents don't wake you up for school anymore, and you just go walk in there. They're like, hey, be at the Woody.
Breakfast
now, listen.
isn't on the table when you come
Well,
downstairs.
they do have
there, I
breakfast.
guess. Yeah, they do. Never mind.
They have breakfast and
we
stuff.
had Gatorade shakes.
But the first thing you do in the morning isn't like shower and go to class. It's get your butt to the Woody. And when we say workout start at 6:30, it's not like, hey, cruise on in at 6:25 and we meander down there.
And you say you've been working out. That's great. Come in here and enjoy this one because you're going to be hardly walking to class.
So Mick does a good job, like the first like semi-week, like they call it oozing them in, giving a taste of everything. But now like start to ratchet that thing up in a hurry. And it's really just the psychological burden of doing things that are structured, that are a full day long that you've never been able to do. I tell it, someone's like being a parent. You just learn to operate with less sleep. Like, that's just the reality. How do you do this in college football? Like, well, wake up. Like, you got to go to bed.
Just do it.
Like, hey, at some point, hey, bro, we can't just be bros hanging out on the sticks.
Can't be playing video games till 1 o'clock in the morning. Got a 5 a.m. wake up.
Mick will come in. You'll be looking sleepy eyed. He'll be all over you.
Yeah. You've been over there in the last week.
Yeah.
Like what has been the look? Have you seen someone? You don't know the names yet, probably, because all these guys are new to you. But have you seen like the look of terror? Or
I think there's a comment.
Look of terror.
This isn't Will Ferrell and Old School trying to scare them.
Isn't Urban Meyer's?
No, they like listen.
Tell anybody about this, we're gonna kill you.
They lay out the
We'll have him back by dinner.
They lay out the expectations.
That's a pop culture JC over here.
Have him back by dinner. It's 20 years old now, but it's all good.
Exactly.
I don't know,
That's his wheelhouse.
It really is.
It is.
But the guys like look at him like, all right, like there's expectations, and they lay it out. That's the thing. Like, hey, you're not the best player on your team, and we can win without you. Mm-hmm. So don't think that we're just gonna let you do whatever it is you want to do. Here's what you're doing. Here's how we're working. Here's when we're getting here, and you outline that, because the reality is those guys prepare them for spring ball, for winter conditioning, and then to ultimately go out. You came in early so you could compete and have success. Let's see if you can get that done.
You know what I think one of the biggest adjustments is? Not having a ride to the Woody at 5:30 in the morning and having to figure out how are we getting here when it's 20 degrees out.
They have Uber loaded up.
We just have to sit at the
They
bus
Uber
stop.
them now.
Oh, that's
They have 4 Ubers a day or something like that. I don't know. There's all kinds.
Do they really?
Oh yeah, we take buses.
We had to go sit at the bus stop and wait for the dang thing to come.
And then when
they have addressed that.
And then when we had winter conditioning, it was a good little bonding process. Is Trust would make one of the juniors and seniors like pick up the freshmen in your position group at the
Ride buddies.
hotel. Yeah, and so like ride buddies. So if your dude isn't ready, like you're calling their room, cell phone, whatever, get your butt out of bed, get down here, and then eventually I'm not going to be late on your behalf. So
nobody having to ride.
If it's like
here,
it's
I'm out.
5:35, dude, I'm out of here
We're
now.
gone.
All right, that is all underway. That's a
Yeah.
rundown of some tweaks there for the Ohio State coaching staff, and obviously what's happened as the NFL draft deadline has come and not fully gone, but Ohio State's moves are now done. CJ Stroud was the last out the door there for Ohio State.
So 2 days left in the transfer portal window if anyone wants to leave, but I don't know that that's going to.
Is there
Is there
anybody
anybody out there that we might be
lure in?
Not
or is everybody gone that we
at
want?
this point. I mean, there's a newly entered offensive tackle from Georgia last week. His name's Jacob Hood, 6'8", 350 pounds, freshman. Like he's a potential look at, but
Coach height.
It's in a weird time here, so you don't know.
Well, it means 2 days left. I mean, he got a chance to see the box, so
Yeah.
He's got to see him up close and personal. That's not usually the kind of guy that Ohio State attacks in the transfer portal.
But it could be.
Need more experience, but who knows? It's a different time in college football and in roster management, and a busy week for Ohio State. We broke it all down as we tried our best to do it anyway here in the Horseshoe Lounge at Roosters with a fun, casual conversation. We appreciate Nicole Cox, Justin Zwick, Bobby Carpenter, Jeremy Birmingham. I am merely Austin Ward.
No,
we will see you.
I know.
you're a very important person.
See you all.
Not as important as Berm.
Next week, we'll be back here to do it all again. See you then.